Welcome to another episode in the Quantum Human Summit series, Expanding Multi-Dimensional Awareness. Today, we meet with Jonette Crowley, who is a beautiful teacher, creator of soul fusion, and a channel of Mark. She is an expert in higher dimensions, multidimensionality, and we're going to learn her story and so much more. Let's welcome Jonette Crowley to this beautiful space. Hi, Jeannette.
Thank you. And it's good to reconnect and be with you again and with all your people. So thank you.
Wow, thank you. We are so thrilled to be speaking with you again. And we're going to catch up with your story. For those of you who don't know you, and those who do know you, you are now a grandmother in the Native tradition. So let's start there. How did this come about?
I had read books where someone's living in California and some shaman from South America shows up on their doorstep. It wasn't quite like that, but it was during COVID, and I was doing my personal channeling sessions for people. And this woman called and she asked me questions about a medicine wheel, and she was called Grandmother Sasa. And I'm answering her questions, and evidently I passed the test because halfway through our session that was for her, she said, "I've been watching you for years. I know your book, The Eagle and the Condor. My guide is also a white eagle." She said, "And you are supposed to be initiated as a grandmother in the Native tradition and to hold the Western gate for Mother Earth." Well, this was all a lot. And but I followed it because I actually knew I would be a grandmother, be called to be a grandmother in the Native tradition, but I didn't know what Native grandmother would pick me, and she had been watching me for years. So on my 65th birthday during COVID, I flew to New Hampshire to be initiated and to then take part twice a year in her medicine wheel ceremonies with other grandmothers and grandfathers, Native elders. So it's put me really into that Native culture that I skirted around, but now I'm just so much more at home there and so much more connected to their wisdom. So thanks for the question.
Wow, that is so beautiful. And of course, you were recognized as a grandmother. The Eagle and the Condor. What a beautiful book, and the journey through Peru and all of it. I mean,
I have it here. Yeah. Yeah.
I have the audio version of that on CDs. That's how long we've known each other. I burned it all to CDs. Wow. Okay. Well, we are going to be talking about multidimensional ascension. And this is perfect because we are we are feeling into what it means to be multidimensional. And what we're learning so far is that we have got to clear the baggage. We've got to get rid of the density because it's the density that keeps us from being aware of the multidimensionality. So let me ask first, as we get started here on this topic, what it means to you to be a quantum human. Is there a definition that you can give us for being a quantum human?
It's a great question. I've been working with the quantum dimension since like 1989 when my guide, Mark, he could have had a more exotic name, came and said, I'm going to work with you to help you bridge the gap between where humans are and this multidimensional reality. And I'm going, I can barely handle this dimension. I really didn't give a stuff about multidimensional reality. This was 1989, right? And he said, gather people together, Mark, this never been human guide, and we're going to guide you. So I think I found 6 weird people who were into spiritual things back then because that wasn't my group. And we started a group weekly. And now for 35 years, people have come and gone. I work with Mark channeling for groups, and we started small, but now we're working with what he calls the 12th dimension. So what it's like to be a multidimensional human is expansion beyond the linear, which goes without saying, but I'm really feeling physical changes. In the beginning, when we move to those places, usually we're on the ground and we send our soul up and we have beautiful journeys. And we come back to the crap that is happening and we feel schizophrenic, right? Because we have these wonderful experiences, but it hasn't changed this life yet. Well, what's happening now with the frequencies is we're now having these multidimensional experiences in our body. And that's only happened strongly probably in the last year. And when it's in our body, that's when our world ripples out and we find other connectors and we begin to change. So what does it mean is transformation that's not based on our head, our thinking, our past. And kind of once you get on the accelerator, it just goes. It's automatic.
Wow. Okay. That is wonderful. And we're all wondering, wow, the 12th dimension, it really is embodiment. And the work that you've been doing for the past few decades, soul body fusion, is absolutely the premise for that work, I would say, because you're bringing in the soul into the body. It's the embodiment. So when we're okay, it's truly heart living then. It's truly living from the place of the radiant heart then, in the present moment.
But even more than the heart, because we spiritual beings, we love living in our heart. I mean, I had a wonderful heart, but I was still totally disconnected to my body.
Oh,
And I don't think we got that fine-tunedness, but I realized, and so I have this book too, Soul Body Fusion. I thought I was here because I was having such expanded states. And then I realized the expanded states were happening up here and my body wasn't participating. That's the key. Once your body, not just your immortal heart that's all lovely, but the stuff that's stuffed in your body, everything participates with this transition, this transformation. And soul body fusion for me has been a key to help people with that. This book is in 13 languages now, Soul Body Fusion. I have thousands of practitioners and trainers around the world. So it wasn't just me who needed it. It was kind of a missing piece for a lot of us.
well, I guess my question is, what does it feel like to have that awareness in the body then, to be so connected to the body? What do you experience in that?
That's a good question, because when you've been so disconnected, you can be in your body and not even experience it yet, because all the sensory receptors for being in your body have closed down long ago. And so it took years really of doing soul body fusion actively and working with Mark in the higher dimensions to finally have it come together. What does it feel like? It feels like a higher vibration without movement. So it's tingling, but without the movement of tingling. It's sparkling without the effervescence of sparkling. You can know it's there, but you don't quite feel it. But it's a knowing that you are awake and alive like never before. Can you relate to that, or with your the clients that you have?
Yes, and you're talking about this newness that you mentioned only last year, only a year ago did it really come about. Was that right? Did I get that right? Only about a year ago?
Only about a year ago did I see sense in my work with Mark, and I work with him every week, and now we have hundreds of people instead of 7. But I saw a switch over where there was more embodiment of the high frequencies that we had visited, and finally more impact in their lives. Now let's talk about impact of these higher dimensions in our lives. Two things happen. One is everything hits the fan and we fall apart. So everything we've been stuffing, everything we have ignored because we like to be spiritual and lovely, begins to fall apart. So I always tell people, and it's happened for me, 2 divorces, oh my gosh, that a breakdown often comes before a breakthrough. And if it doesn't come before, the breakthrough happens and then a breakdown happens. I hardly ever see a breakthrough that someone just slides from this life into their higher life without having some pivotal parts crash, whether it's their health, their relationships, their kids. So now I see that we're bringing more of it in ourselves. The breakthroughs they're still the same, but we handle them from a different place. And you were talking earlier about the situation where you live in Costa Rica. Instead of us getting all emotional and tied up in victim and whatever, we are different. The breakdowns are the same, but the difference is us. And that's what I'm seeing more in my clients. At first I thought, I must be lucky because I don't have to deal with those clients that I used to have to deal with. Wow, this is so good. They're all kind of enlightened. And I realized maybe we're all moving there.
Oh, I hope so. I really do. This is where all of us watching and listening, this is what we have been waiting for. And all of us are New Earth leaders in that sense. And we cannot wait for that to happen. All right, I want to reflect a little on what you shared there. Wow. Okay. On one hand, it would scare people. Oh, I don't want things to change so much. I don't want everything to fall. But if we reflect back and just, wow, I would say 2022 for me was a big shift and a big change. And it was almost like hit me upside the head, unaware of the changes. But now in hindsight, that was really big. And I started noticing others were going through it as well. And last year, 2023, was a period of some were feeling, what's the word? Some were feeling lethargic or not knowing what next step to take, but they knew there was a step coming in. And so I think that these situations are all part of this breakdown that you're talking. And that breakdown, it's busting out of the old, isn't it? It's busting out of the old. I've heard many women are changing their relationships. And so that could be scary for some, but it's changing because we're changing, right? We're changing.
It's inevitable.
Yes.
I draw this silly little picture. I'm not good at graphics, so I'm going to show you kind of the big quantum picture of what we're talking about, the breakdown. So it's like we've been on this wheel of karma. It goes clockwise. It's within time. It's within space. And we've been churning around life after life after life. And now we're at this inflection point where it looks like we're going to go around karma again. And many people will. But we are moving off into what is a counterclockwise, which is a feminine out of time. This is time, masculine. This is more feminine. It's anti-time. It's out of time space. So we are in this, we've never done this before. We're jumping here. We're going here. Again, not everybody does, but as we get enough people in this new earth, I'll call it, what happens is both of these merge, because everyone says, yeah, she's proving that it's duality. And, those of us who are in the light are going to be saved and those other people are going to be left behind in the old earth. There is no such thing as duality in the quantum world. So what happens is these two will begin to merge, and you've got both a spiral that goes up, a spiral that goes in time, because they're both important. But then the whole um, the whole thing begins to ascend. So I try to tell people there's not going to be the good and the bad, the saved and the left behind, because I hear that so much. It cannot happen in a quantum world. So this is also what you're seeing and what we're seeing when things break down. And there's no rules. Not, masters have been on this new spin, but normal people haven't. So we are having to let go. And like you said, release, release, release.
Woo, we're doing a lot of releasing, absolutely. And one of the things that keeps coming back is, all right, I woke up on the 1st of January in 2022, and I heard exactly what you just said. There's no rules. I was like, wow, the old rules really definitely do not apply. But one rule does, and that's the rule of love. And one thing that helps me is if there are no rules, but society has their rules and we kind of appear to be going up against their rules, then love as a rule or as the foundation for moving on the planet is really the integrity that we all must have. So as things break down, relationships change and shift. If we're always there with love, that affects the timeline. That affects everything in a positive way. Can you share a little bit more on this?
Yeah. So let me talk about, I'm not going to go through all the dimensions, but what one of my bonus offerings is going to be a free chance to watch my 5 video series of Dancing Through Dimensions, where I take people, explain it and experience the first 10 dimensions. So they can watch that video as a free bonus, and they'll learn so much and they'll feel the difference. But what's happening now in the 12th dimension is that the 12th dimension, there's 12 cycles of the zodiac. There's 12 months to the year. There's 12 hours to the day. 12 has been a cycle of completion. When you get to 12, you start over. We're not starting over to 1, 2, 3 again. We're moving to what is the 13th. They talk about the 13 grandmothers, the 13 crystal skulls coming together. 13 is where all the 12 merge into this light. So we are in this transcendent, transitional kind of end time, not end time that everything blows up, but where time is not our only foundation. And that's where we are in this 12th dimension, which my guide calls transcendence. And we just started this 12th dimension last year, but this year, just 2 weeks ago, we started a course called Grace. And Mark says that grace is the cause and the effect of ascension. It causes it. And when we do move to these transcendent spaces, grace is the space. And love, of course, is the currency of grace. So I may have walked around what you were asking, but we are living in grace and love in a transcendental way, not an emotional grace, not an emotional love, but a transcendent love. And it's coming into our hearts, but then it's changing every cell.
I love that. I love the grace concept, that grace feeling. It's more powerful than love, and in a certain point and an aspect to it. Love is like the foundation that I get, but the grace adds a whole level. I'm elated right now. It's like if we can face every situation with grace, that is a really good way to be on the planet. That is New Earth. So that is helping us through to ascension, grace.
Yeah, it's Mark calls it the operating system for
Ah,
for the new world. And you know, we can have everything, but if the operating system is old, nothing works the way it should. And he gave me a visual to explain why grace is so important. He said, you know, we could have spent years lining up a line of dominoes and hit the first one and they all go. He says, but this is like all these lines of dominoes are in the center. You knock one and all these timelines change. So what we're working in now is so multidimensional. It's beyond timelines and it's uncreated. It's not like we're moving from this to this known but higher place. We are totally moving to the unknown. So grace is an operating system, thank heavens, because that means we can't create the unknown out of any crap or darkness. We can only create it out of grace. Thank you.
yes, and I love it. So that's really what you call the 12th dimension. So when we travel, I know we're going to do a little meditation with you, and maybe we'll be able to experience that. And thank you for sharing those videos dancing through the dimensions. That sounds really exciting because we all want to know how we do that. But here you are leading people through to the 12th dimension. And I would wonder what that means. Like, what do we do? What do we do to go to the 12th dimension or experience it?
So I'm going to share things that have been happening to me in that, and once they happen to me, then I see them in the collective, so that the listeners can see that there's no how to the 12th dimension, but there's things that happen that you can go, oh, wow, I must have made it. And like any high journey, you don't know you're high. You don't know you're somewhere else until you come back and you're in a state that I would call super consciousness. You go, wow, my body feels different. Everything feels different. I don't know what, but it's different. So there's no steps that you can follow. You can't be logical, but you change. So one thing I'm noticing is that flower of life, you know, this sign, I see it as the matrix of everything. You know, Drunvalo Melchizedek talked about it, but now I can see the flower of life on my ceiling. I can see it in our bodies, and it's just a wow moment. The other thing that I've noticed, and this just happened to me a few weeks ago, you know, we have our rainbow colored chakras, and we mostly look at the ones to our crown. And I was having a healing, and the practitioner did all the chakra colors and the proper sounds. And when he was done, I was in such a weird place. I said, my heart isn't green. My heart isn't green. I need an amethyst. Get an amethyst. Put it on my heart. And it changed everything. And so then I asked my guides, I go, what was that? So imagine, and I'm sharing this because this is happening to us. Imagine we have that our 7 chakras, they get so bright, and then there's 7 above that and 7 above that, like different octaves. We can't see the 7 above this, but as we ascend, you might imagine our body stays here. No, the chakras, here's these 7, then there's the 7 above. We lift up those chakras. So now my heart is where my crown was, right? And these 3 chakras, my throat, my third eye, and my crown, now I can only see it as bright, fiery white light, but they are in a different quantum than they ever were before. So I share that so people can feel that they might not be red starting at the bottom and purple ending here, that they may be moving up. It's fiery white light, sometimes it's gold, but that's one thing for people to watch for.
Your experience and understanding corroborates others that we've had on this platform, and it's so beautiful to hear. That is the shift and the change that's happening. Wow. Okay. So let's ask, what your guide Mark, he's the one who's helped you learn about the dimensions. and this ascension process and grace of the 12th dimension. What's happening now in our ascension process? Is there more that you can share on this?
So once people and ascension, I think sometimes we think, oh, it's coming from the great central sun or the whatever. It is, but it only happens through humans. So we are ascending. We don't just receive it. We have to move into these higher frequencies because we're the consciousness that can ground it in a different way into Earth. Earth and nature has its own consciousness, but human consciousness is different. It's like evolutionary in a quantum point of view. And so this evolutionary quantum consciousness is coming through us. We ascend. And that is actually the button that lets Earth and nature ascend. So what I'll tell people to look for is that your light, your frequency outside yourself, your light body, your aura, whatever you want to call it, gets so strong that you'll notice that instead of being a body with an aura, you go, oh, wow, I have a really nice aura. You become, your identity shifts to your aura. You become your light body, and you notice that, oh, your light body has Jeannette inside. So that shift is subtle, but I'm noticing in more and more people. So I ask you all who are interested in ascension, pay attention to where your identity is. When it moves out of your head and your mind is the controller, and you are in this oneness space, this sparkling quantum space, and that's becoming your identity. And maybe it's only your identity for the first 5 minutes when you wake up in the morning or after a nice meditation or while you're running. But so it won't stay all the time. You won't notice it all the time. But once you notice it, you don't ever go back to having just this identity with an aura. The switch is permanent even if you don't notice it. So that's another hallmark of this ascension process. Again, a long answer, but that's what I'm seeing.
No, I love it. Okay. And I know that there's those who are watching and listening that have had experiences like that. It's so beautiful. We want to have more. I just want to say we want to have more. One night I was sitting and I was looking at the world, and it was as if I was looking through God's eyes. I saw everything differently. That's what you're talking about. But yet, getting back there is not always so easy. Do you have advice or suggestions? I guess maybe I'm answering this myself. Just surrender to it.
Because if you try to get back there, trying is the wrong set of stairs. It is surrender, it's meditation, it's give yourself quiet time. We all work so hard on our spiritual growth, and the gods laugh. It's not about working hard. It's not about what should I do next. And I'm only at the 12th dimension. I want the 17th. It really is letting go and surrendering, because it is there and it's more present than it ever has been. It's more anchored on earth than it ever has been, thanks to all of our work.
We've had some people say that they feel it. Like right now, I'm feeling something, and it's actually what keeps me going every day. So I love it. I really do. And as we experience this, I would like now maybe a meditation with you or something like this. Can you talk to us about what we're going to experience in this, and then we can go right into it?
Well, so I just want to say a little bit. What helps me grow so much is every week for 35 years, I channel Mark. Those classes are open to anyone. They're on Zoom. And I always put the first class of every 8-course series on YouTube for free. So if people want to watch the first class of Grace, it's up on YouTube and it's on my website. So I'm going to channel this, so I can't tell you what's going to happen. But our goal is for you all to have an experience, or at least, and maybe you don't experience it, because what I notice is our receptors aren't so open to this, but you'll have a connection to grace whether you experience it or not. So don't get caught up in, I didn't feel anything, because at first we don't know what to feel. So yes, I'm going to call in Mark and we'll do this little meditation. Welcome, butterflies. This is Mark. You are done with who you've been, and yet you do not know the power of who you are. We ask you now to honor who you've been, to love it and forgive it, to become honor, to become the living light of forgiveness. And so to let release what no longer serves you or the collective. Feel yourself leaving the confines that have been home to you. As you allow your quantum self to expand outside linearity. Your body might feel melting, it might feel hot or cold. Stay in your body. And as you move into nothingness, the 3D structure begins to change. And you allow your soul self to expand out of 3D. Yet stay present in your body. And begin to notice perhaps atoms or electrons vibrating inside you and outside you. That there is a quickening. It's physical, but may not necessarily be experienceable. The quickening of every atom or electron begins to generate a field. And you might call this the field of grace. You are in it, it is in you. There's no traveling required. Keep relaxing your body. As the field of grace repurposes you. It is a letting go. There are no steps, no next steps, no missions. It is a letting go. Generally, all this happens below your ability to be aware. But as you stay here, your awareness switches and it opens. As you move into knowing, grace is presence in the higher dimensions, presence that doesn't require only 3D existence. Your true presence throughout all the dimensions is grace. Blessings. This is Mark. And I'll tell your viewers, if they're listening to this as a recording, it's a good idea to pause this and spend as much time here as you can.
Wow. Yes, spend as much time here as possible. I don't even want to disturb it. The way I feel inside, I feel like crying in the truth. And now I understand what it means. There's no problem in the present, and everything is here now. As we started, I'm just going to share, maybe this helps others understand what they went through, or maybe they're experiencing something as well. As we went in the beginning of this, it felt like tethers being released, tethers. And then I felt as if I was floating inside my body. And I see the world where all of us move in this way. That's New Earth. Wow.
And
Thank you.
can you feel that you're not this, you're not in time space, somehow you've been liberated from time space itself?
But it's right here. And we didn't go anywhere. And that is the beauty that I want to emphasize. That's the grace. In the face of everything, rock crushers, people cutting down trees, whatever it is, people treating other people badly. This perspective, this is a perspective. This is our quantum awareness. This is being the quantum human. It takes all the rough edges off. It is that complete surrender. And it's here within us.
Mhm. And it's more accessible than it ever has been because of all the work all of us are doing. But there comes a point where you can't approach it like work, a mission, or a job. That got us here, but then we have to let it all go.
Beautiful. Yes. All right. Let's have our viewers and listeners watch this again, anchor this feeling, get used to this feeling, and also work with Jeannette and her guide, Mark. They are beautiful instruments of this journey and share so much wisdom with us. All right. Well, that was the 12th dimension. Yes.
Mhm.
I must ask, what about the other 11 dimensions? I know we don't have time for them all, but you and Mark have literally mapped them. And you've mentioned the video in your special offer. That's wonderful. But can you share more about these other dimensions, what you understand them to be? Do they have different feelings and flavors?
Yes, and this has been a journey of 30 years where Mark started saying, all right, the first three dimensions you understand, the fourth dimension is light energy waves. And, and most of our healing work is with energy frequency waves. And that was as high as I thought we could go. And the fifth dimension was geometry, symbols. So, Reiki came and had geometry symbols. And those are kind of underlie energy. But then we move beyond energy. What the fifth dimension was magnetic. So it has nothing to do with energy or force. The magnet will stick on your refrigerator for 1,000 years and it takes no effort. So then we levitate to this magnetic force of power. I mean, this was 20 years ago he was doing this. I mean, it took us so long. Sometimes we'd spend 3 years in one dimension until he felt it was anchored enough in humanity and in us that we could go to the next one. So I'll just jump ahead. The 11th dimension was, he called it Shambhala consciousness. And again, this isn't what astrophysicists would call dimensions. This is a map for humans to move. It's not mathematically correct. But the 11th dimension is a portal. It's a gateway. And we were working with that for like 2 or 3 years. And he called it Shambhala, where it's the interaction really of the two worlds, the higher planes of Shambhala and our world. It's kind of like when I drew this. Shambhala is the place where, if these were overlapping, it's the Vesica Pisces of the overlap. It's the portal into moving here. So that portal's open. And again, just last year, he said, all right, let's move to the 12th, which is completion. It's the breakthrough. So it's real. It helps to follow them, but you don't have to jump in. You don't have to say, oh my gosh, they're on the 13th. I'll have to start at the beginning. No, the field is built. The steps are solid. Mark doesn't move us to the next step until the field, people can find it. And so I invite people to start where we are, and you can watch the Dancing Through Dimensions so you can see where you've been, but it's not necessary to study it.
No prerequisite required. I love that. That's true accessibility for everything, every vibration. That is the ascension journey. Okay. So I have to ask, are you still triggered when you have this grace and this embodiment of the dimensions within your physicality? If you're triggered, I can only sense that it's a short-lived event.
Yeah, because I'm not the one holding the gun that used to be when I was triggered. Now I can expand much more quickly. I notice it, and I'm so much bigger than the persona who played in those old games. And it's so important, Loren, that we get out of this victim redeemer mentality. I mean, we got into this spiritual stuff kind of because we had the redeemer mentality. I want to help these people. And as long as we are in that polarity and haven't forgiven and released everything, and there's no one to save, there's just that space, then the triggers become softer and they become pointers always of where we're still a little stuck. But you can be stuck and ascending. You don't have to get rid of all the stuckness, you guys, in order to ascend. You just need to throw off enough sandbags from your balloon's basket that it'll go. Your balloon's going to go. You're in it. You just have to let go some of the stuff.
I love that. I love that visual. I do. And I just have to say, you can be stuck and ascending. That is really reassuring. Because as we are stuck or feeling stuck, it feels like it could become so easy to flip that switch into surrender of the higher frequencies. And I can recall years ago, decades ago, I would say that's such a cop-out to just throw your hands up, but it really is not. And I get goosebumps as I'm talking about that, because this is it. Yeah. And again, no matter what's happening in our world, there's some crazy stuff going on, and we can certainly get distracted with our attention. But what if we did this sort of vibrational treatments to ourselves towards the external world when we're witnessing things that don't sit right, whether you're reading the news or looking at politics. That's an old school dying, right? And what can we do to feed a more positive timeline for New Earth?
It's a great practical question, and I'd say, when you're trying to get healthy, you watch the crap that you eat. And we have to watch the stuff we're engaged in, the television, the YouTube. We have to, because I see people in my own family. I have a big family, and they watch TV and then they're just so filled with anger. And I go, why do you watch something that makes you angry?
It's
And
almost like
it's not a cop out to let it go.
it's not a cop out to let it go. It could be the cop out to buy into it. That's the cop out, is ignoring our own frequencies that we have access to. Wow.
Just remember, negativity and addiction to it is our last addiction. So we can get rid of a lot of other addictions, to whatever. And the last one to go is our addiction to negativity. Because in the past, negativity kept us grounded. And we needed that while the earth and we were evolving as a species. But now we bring our soul in and we ground our soul. And we no longer need that pull of negativity to keep us on earth as spiritual beings.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That is so rich and feels so incredible. And this is the work that you've been doing for 35 years. It's so beautiful. Thank you again for it and for sharing all of us your wisdom. So,
Thank you.
wow. Jeannette, I am floating right now. I'm feeling really good, and I know everyone is too. And this is the job, if you even want to call it a job. This is the journey.
Yeah,
And
it's a
I,
journey.
I really do. So truly, truly, those who are watching and listening, we certainly hope that you can feel this, and we know you resonate with it, and you are on your path as well. So Jeannette has a beautiful special offer that she's sharing with all of us. It's more of her work. It is walking your soul's path. This is a course to spend time with Mark and Jeannette. Tell us about this.
So it's just to make it accessible, it's just a 3 hour Zoom course because we get so busy that if something's, 8 hours, I could do a lot more, but we can do a lot in a short time. It's walking your soul's path, and it's really about how to listen to yourself, how to let go of what isn't yourself, how to feel the energy of being drawn forward, and also giving up what you think is the next step. And I'm just going to share, years ago, my first spiritual experience. I was hiking in Australia and the dimensions opened up and I saw this being in white standing there. I saw her. She called me over to her. I'm in two worlds. I'm carrying my backpack and I'm with her. And I set my backpack down and she fills me with love. And I later learned she's White Buffalo Calf Woman. But then she says, okay, it's time to go. And I says, which way do I go? There's just trees and forest everywhere. And she said, you make your path by walking. And I realized there is no path to follow. You make it by every step. And that's how I've lived my life. And it's become way different than I had programmed for. And so in 3 hours, we're going to just bring you to these higher energies because it's all about frequency. So you can be happy with the path you're on and be open to 360 degrees of what's next rather than what's the next linear step.
Wow, 3 hours. What we did today was so enriching and fulfilling and beautiful and full of grace that 3 hours of this only makes me sense into that so much more. My gosh, that will give us a strong foothold on walking this path. I just want to reiterate, give up what you think the next step is. That right there makes me want to cry in love. And feeling the release of waking up in the middle of the night wondering about what we're doing, when we can just give up what we think the next step is and trust, and you make your path by walking it. And as we said earlier in this program, we do it with grace. We do it from love, outside of the rules, as everything is changing and shifting. Wow. So beautiful. So beautiful. I know there's going to be so many that want to join you for this beautiful, magical journey. I'm excited for it. It seems like it's a bath of higher dimensional frequencies.
It's a beautiful way to say it. Yeah.
Like that's what I felt like we were in this episode today. It's so beautiful. Again, come back to this and listen to it again, because when the world gets this, when we as light keepers and new earth way showers get this and live from this perspective, can you see how that radiates out to the world, whether we are trying to or not? It will be a great influence for the world. It takes me back to Lemuria, where we had hoped, bringing the laggards in, that this love that we had carried within us would influence the laggards to raise the frequency. But now here we are, tens of thousands of years later, doing it again, one heart at a time, and it will happen. Do you agree?
It is happening. There is no going back. The guides weren't sure at the end of the 90s if we would crash or not, but the whole timeline of destruction is not on the table anymore. Even the Hopi prophecy that seemed to show that it is not on the table anymore.
And we send a big thanks to all of y'all, because we've done it. Thank you. Wow. It feels so good. It really does. All right. Jeannette, this has been a beautiful episode today. I am flying high. I know others are as well. The world has shifted because of this. And for that, I am deeply grateful for you. So as we say goodbye, I want to give you a moment to cover any other thing that might be on your heart to share, or any final thoughts.
Well, if whoever felt this, come to my website, and which is JonnetteCrowley.com. Watch the free market. There's a thing called About Mark. There's a thing called free, and you can watch scores of free mark meditations that take you through the dimensions, but you don't have to. You can just start with this one. Really honor yourself and let go of anything that drives you crazy, because you don't have to fix it. You just have to release it. And it's an honor. It's an honor to be a grandmother. It's an honor to work with other elders like you, Loren, and so many. And, we who are elders, we're passing a torch that's actually lit to the rest of you, you who are younger, you who are just finding this path. I think in the past, we've been past torches that were kind of almost on the way out. Now the torches are lit, and you have a lot of light that you all are carrying, and a lot of changes that your beingness is making.
So inspirational, and a call to each of our hearts to really fully step into that once and for all. Now we know the journey. Now we know the directives. We can hear the call of the heart, and we are saying yes. After the last couple of years, the doubt or the questions of how do I fit in, I think it's become so much more clear now, and it's so beautiful. So thank you for your incredible work and for sharing with us today. Again, we are shifted, and that's so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.